Nike just laid off another 1,400 people, fourth straight year of cuts. Some of those jobs were in Beaverton, Oregon, Nike's own hometown, the town where the company practically invented modern sneaker marketing. That's the headline that should matter to you. Not some market share chart out of Shanghai. Actual desks going empty in Oregon. So let's talk about why an American icon keeps trimming its own workforce. Because the answer isn't the economy. The answer is a company most Americans have never heard of on the other side of the planet, quietly eating the business that used to fund those jobs. Zoom out and the trend line is blunt. A few years ago, Nike employed around 83,700 people worldwide. Today it's closer to 77,800. That's a steady, multi-year shrinkage, one round of cuts at a time, and it tracks almost exactly with the years Nike was losing ground in its second biggest market. Start with the numbers that actually hit home. Nike's net income for fiscal 2025 was $3.2 billion, down 44% from the year before. And since late 2023, the layoffs haven't stopped. 1,600 jobs cut in 2024, hundreds more at the Oregon headquarters in 2025, 775 positions cut from U.S. distribution centers in December, and now another 1,400 in April, hitting technology and operations roles across the company, plenty of them right at the Beaverton campus that employs over 10,500 people. On top of the layoffs, Nike closed one of its most talked about stores earlier this year, a 5-story, 55,000 square foot flagship location that was marketed as the literal future of sports retail. Treadmills, half courts, the whole immersive pitch. Gone. The building's now owned by IKEA. Fitness studios shut down across Texas and California. Tech offices closed. Here's what went wrong. It's China. Not tariffs, not politics. Market share. For about 2 decades, Nike owned Chinese sportswear the way it owns a locker room pep talk. Peak year, 2018. China was 22% of Nike's entire global sales. That's not a side market. That's a fifth of the whole company. Today, China makes up about 15% of Nike's business, and it's still shrinking. Greater China revenue dropped 21% in a recent quarter, the weakest region in the entire portfolio. That missing revenue doesn't just vanish quietly. It shows up as smaller marketing budgets, fewer store openings, canceled projects, and yes, layoffs in Oregon. When a company loses a fifth of its growth engine, someone back home pays for it. This time, it's been Beaverton's turn, 4 years running. So who took the business? A company called Anta Sports, founded in 1991 in a small Chinese shoe manufacturing town by a guy named Ding Shizhong. For years, it was the budget option. The brand you bought when you couldn't afford the real thing being Nike. In 2025, Anta pulled in 80.2 billion yuan in revenue, about $11 billion, up 13.3%. A record, again, because at this point, that's just what Anta does every year. It holds roughly 22% of the Chinese sportswear market, the single largest share of anyone, foreign or domestic, Nike included. It passed Nike back in 2022 and hasn't looked back since. Anta didn't beat Nike by copying Nike. It built something Nike structurally can't. Nike is one name, one brand carrying the whole company. When that name has a bad year, everyone downstream has a bad year, including the guy in Beaverton whose department just got restructured. Anta built a portfolio instead. It bought Fila's China license in 2009 when the brand was dead in the water and turned it into a 9-figure business with a 66% margin. Then it went shopping internationally. Descent, Jack Wolfskin. And in 2019, led a consortium to buy Amer Sports, the owner of Arc'teryx, Salomon, and Wilson, for $5.2 billion. At the time, that looked like a mid-tier Chinese manufacturer wildly overpaying for brands it didn't understand. 6 years later, Amer Sports is a public company worth over $20 billion on its own, and Arc'teryx is one of the defining outdoor labels of the decade. Add Anta's own market cap to its stake in Amer, and the combined value pushes north of $40 billion. In January 2026, it picked up nearly 30% of Puma 2. A company that started as Nike's knockoff aisle is now one of the largest shareholders of one of Nike's other competitors. None of this required Chinese consumers to hate America. One Chinese sales manager put it about as plainly as it gets. He grew up idolizing Nike, and now he just buys Anta because the quality's the same and it's cheaper. No boycott, no slogan. Just a guy who stopped seeing the point of paying extra for a logo. That's the part that should worry a $46 billion American company more than any tariff headline. The quality gap that justified Nike's premium for 20 years quietly closed. Nobody at headquarters seemed to notice until the revenue did the noticing for them. And it's not like Nike's only domestic rival abroad is struggling either. Li-Ning, Anta's biggest Chinese competitor, has had a rough few years of its own, and Topsports, the big retailer that distributes Nike and Adidas across China, saw its revenue drop nearly 7% in 2025. Nike isn't just losing to one well-run company. It's losing in a market where the local competition, as a whole, got dramatically better, while Nike assumed the crown was permanent. Nike knows it has a problem, obviously. That's what all these layoffs and closures are technically for. In late 2023, it brought in China veteran He Yanfeng to run something called the Win Now Plan. More local autonomy, more investment, more urgency. Current CEO Elliott Hill has been restructuring manufacturing, distribution, and technology since taking over, trying to shift the company back toward wholesale and away from an over-reliance on direct-to-consumer. That shift alone reorganizes thousands of American retail relationships. Which stores get priority inventory, which distribution centers stay open, which corporate teams still have a job to come back to on Monday. Filings tied to the restructuring pointed to roughly $300 million in cost-cutting charges, mostly severance. Wall Street has not exactly thrown a parade about any of it. The stocks had a rough few years to show for it. Here's the part that should sit with you longer than the layoff headline. For decades, the assumption in American business was that this kind of thing happens to other people's industries. Steel, manufacturing, electronics. Not to Nike. Not to the biggest, most culturally dominant sportswear brand on the planet, with a marketing machine that basically invented the modern athlete endorsement. It happened anyway, quietly, over about 15 years, while everyone in Oregon was still making jokes about knockoff sneakers from Xinjiang. Nike built a religion around one swoosh. Anta built a portfolio, brand by brand, acquisition by acquisition. And now that portfolio is generating the cash that used to flow through Beaverton. So, no, Nike isn't disappearing. It's still the biggest sportswear company in the world. But every round of layoffs in Oregon is downstream of a scoreboard being run 6,000 miles away by a company most of the people losing their jobs have never even heard of.